How can startup founders build their brands through thought leadership and digital distribution in a way that actually gets customers? Today, Johnnie Walker from Rooled and Melissa Hollis from the Taylor Street Collective talk about startup marketing. Welcome back to another edition of The Angel Nest, where real angel investors and entrepreneurs partner to build great companies. I'm David Hemingway, and this is another in our series of podcasts with Johnnie Walker of Rooled, Outsourced CFO and accounting services, and we're talking about how founders are getting creative to get their businesses off the ground by raising money and finding clients. Rooled are the startup finance experts. Thanks for joining, Johnnie.
Great to be here again. Thanks, David.
So today we're going to be talking about some of what you've been doing right here, which is using media to help your clients in the startup ecosystem and bringing these product experts and showing people how Rooled can help them kind of all in one process.
Yes. No, I think this is a particularly key point for us.
Melissa Hollis is the co-founder of the Taylor Street Collective, and they promise to supercharge your startup marketing and provide everything from consulting to fractional CMO services. Melissa, it's a pleasure to welcome you today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good to be here. Thanks, Johnnie.
So we hear all the time from founders with great products or services or software that their biggest struggle is being heard over all the noise. So how do we use thought leadership and social media to help them do that?
Yeah, I think that is the biggest struggle for anyone. It's so noisy now, even more so than it has been in the last 5 or 10 years to just get your message across. And I'd say the people who are doing it effectively, and especially the startup founders who are doing it effectively, are the ones out there really trying to help others, help provide value to someone they deeply understand and know the struggles of. So when I think about how Johnnie is doing it, it's that I know Johnnie. I've known him for years now. I know he's an expert in what he does, and he's passionate about helping startups. And to take that and take everything I know about the work that he's doing and that Rooled's doing and bring that to more digital channels so that they can help more people and reach more people, that is exactly what thought leadership marketing is. And it all starts with just really, truly knowing what problems you're solving, and especially, even more importantly, knowing who you're solving them for.
So Melissa, now you and Johnnie have worked together to spread the word about Rooled, even using some of the material from the podcast to power Rooled's outreach programs. It seems like thought leadership really is the new advertising.
Yes, I think thought leadership is a part of the strategy that you would then use advertising to expand on, to expand the reach of, if that would be able to be the way you reach your audience. So thought leadership is, it's taking what your expertise is and it's putting it into words so it can be consumable to your target audience. And then how you reach them really just depends on knowing where they are and knowing, are they on social media? Are they on YouTube? Is that where they're solving the problems? Or they're researching what the problems might even be that they then need to Google to solve? It's really about just making sure that you're in the right place when the question is being asked or even being raised in their mind.
And I think just to comment there, I think we've benefited from Melissa's deep experience on just establishing the strategy around thought leadership. And I think this is one of the really fundamental components, just Melissa was saying there. You have to understand what audience you're going for and then where they are listed, exactly as Melissa said, where they are listening and how you can then approach them. And it's something that I think as you get into it, you really start to understand better what techniques, what language, what content you're using in different places. And then once you're honing in on where you're targeting for these people, then you start to really see the benefits and how to do it better. And I think that kind of alignment between what you're saying and what that target audience is interested in is something that you really have to understand. And Melissa, from my experience with Rooled, Melissa's been instrumental in helping us understand that and monitor it and actually improve it and optimize it as we go.
I think especially going back to what you said about it being the new advertising and what Johnnie just said, it's really about building trust, because today's buyers want to feel educated and they need to be educated. A lot more is on the line. It's not like advertising as we know it from Mad Men days or when you're watching a commercial is is all that effective. You have to be building trust, especially if you're business to business, and especially if you're an emerging product that is doing something new and original. You're going to have to build trust to gain adoption and get customers.
And I think in that, one of the, it shouldn't be surprising, but one of the things that you do find out is that it does take time. It takes energy, it takes time, and it takes commitment to develop this content, really understand, really hone describing what it is that you do and what you're an expert at. And then, it's not something that you just do and flip. I think that goes hand in hand with creating that trust, because it does take time to build, and it takes time to build the content around it.
Mm-hmm. And you are meeting your audience and your buyers where they're at in their process of getting to the realization that they need you. And if you're doing that at an earlier stage, like you might with thought leadership around topics that are more general, that is going to take more time for it to really click. But if you can capture them early on, provide value, be helpful, point them in the right direction in something that isn't totally self-serving, you're going to earn a loyal follower who is then going to want to engage with you, want to learn from you, and eventually, when the timing is right, buy from you. And that can happen at a varying level of speed, and it just depends on where they're at.
Yep.
And it's really about being top of mind when they're ready to make a buying decision. And that, I think, is what exhausts some founders with very limited resources, because they don't, when they start out, they don't realize that they have to be consistent and they have to really offer something of value. Old advertising asked for a sale. Thought leadership really offers something of value on a consistent basis, just as Johnnie's been doing here, talking to founders about how to get funded.
Yeah, and I think it is exhausting. It can be, but it should be exciting too. This is, why you started a business, to help people solve problems. And that thought leadership, it starts with the conversations you have with people in real life, whether it's at events or one-on-one. It starts with those sales conversations. And at larger companies, the sort of thought leadership that is connecting the dots between what you're solving and what you're selling happens from like a VP or a high level sales expert. But when you're at a startup and it's, a couple of founders, maybe a couple of employees working on a product, you as the founder are that salesperson. You're the one having those conversations. And until you reach a momentum building level of product market fit, you're the one who's responsible for having those conversations and really listening and seeing what's going on in your market so that you can provide the right commentary and you can be involved in that conversation at a broader level too.
And it can be difficult for founders who resist the sales role, right, Melissa? That's always the issue for a startup. If the founder doesn't believe enough in the product to go out and sell it, unlikely that anybody else is going to be successful at that.
Oh, yeah. Every startup needs at least one founder who can do sales or can get comfortable doing sales over time. And whether that's selling to customers or maybe selling to investors, which both are going to have to overlap at some point, your founder, the one who's in that CEO seat, is going to have to be able to do that. And I've worked with startups that had that in spades. And as a marketer, you're so excited when you have that to take what you're seeing and turn it into a bigger picture brand that can last a long time. And some founders, they are developable, they're coachable. Some CEOs too, maybe not founders, you can coach them into that role, but they always have to have that story and then that hunger to do it. And if they don't have that, it can be a real uphill battle and it can feel like a real struggle if they're not excited about talking about what they're doing.
So founders who are listening, Melissa, give them some advice on how do you get started. You have your product and you're excited about it and you know it works, but you need to tell the world. What's the first step?
The first step is really having those conversations, if you're not already, which I'm sure you are, having those conversations they can be sort of esoteric, but talking to customers, if you have them, talking to investors or prospective customers, or just anyone who you can, your grandma, for example, and seeing if you can really figure out how to tie what you're doing with a problem that is plaguing people. And then from there, it's really about putting that pen to paper. And that's never been easier than doing it now digitally. I mean, you can record anything, and just having that conversation and recording it, getting it on a page, and from there, kind of pulling out key points that you think could be potential headlines. And if you're not comfortable doing that, or if you keep running into issues doing that, you can try journaling. That's something that Johnnie and I experimented with as we were kind of pulling out what his thought leadership topics may be. But really, yeah, it's about looking back at why you are where you are, kind of what led you here, and then also connecting that with what's going on in the world. What are the problems you keep hearing, and finding ways that you can address those. If you have the budget to work with, someone like Taylor Street who can help you, coach you through that, or anyone in PR or marketing or content or news or journalism, having them listen to and help you formulate that sort of map of thoughts and of points that you might make, that's wonderful. But if you don't have that, you can use AI tools, even simple AI tools, to ask them to pull out the most interesting tidbits of something that you've documented. And I mean, go through it and think about what is exciting. What is something that you're consuming or you're following like a hawk, and what is your perspective on that? And really just going out and having that conversation digitally is so powerful. So on social media, on YouTube, on all different channels, and in real life, especially in real life, because that's where those conversations actually happen, where people are going to be their honest, truthful selves. And then if you can capture that and put that in writing, that is a big, big way to start just building that thought leadership for yourself. Did I miss anything, Johnnie? I know we've gone through this.
Yeah. No. I think that was great. And I think just to highlight the writing piece, it's such, I think this was my experience and with Melissa's guidance, and I think it has to translate to, I think, just pretty much anybody. The writing is a way in which you start to articulate and you really pick apart what it is that your views and opinions are, which I think is really where you've got insights, you've got something that you're adding value to in the ecosystem. When you have an opinion, it's an educated insight, it's something that you're offering back. And that process of identifying that, understanding it, being able to write about it is one of the really key tasks, I think, in this. And even if you don't end up with a lot of long form written content, it's that thought process that you go through to really understand what it is that your opinions. And then you can articulate them in lots of different ways. They can be in much more soundbite fashion, smaller fashion, depending upon the channels that you're using. But it's such a key component, and it takes time, and it's hard work. And I think if your normal course of life doesn't lead you down writing a lot, this is something that you have to work at. And but it's so powerful. Once you do it, once you get into it, I think you really start seeing this momentum, and everything just gets easier from there. So a very, very great experience on my part.
Great advice. New ways to tell your story in the digital age. Melissa Hollis from the Taylor Street Collective, Johnnie Walker from Rooled, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Melissa.
You can find contact information for our guest today at our website, theangelnest.com, where you can also reach me if you know of an exciting business opportunity or an innovation topic we should talk about. I'm David Hemenway. We produce The Angel Nest with help from Rob Higley and Charles de Montebello at the controls of CDM Studios at the historic Art Deco Film Center building just west of Times Square in New York. Thanks for listening, and here's hoping my fellow angels and the founders they support find their next great venture. So long until next time.